Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fplshrews Game Week 14 preview. Now, you might be wondering where a certain of a member of the Fplshrews is currently, and because of the short game week, and yes, I'm recording this video and hopefully it'll come out before the game week deadline, but the game week deadline is at 6 o'clock today, which is a Tuesday. We haven't had time to do our normal recording, so this is a bit of an emergency one. We're gonna get crack. I promise you, we will get back on track with all the recording and everything that's going on. But for today, it's just me going through our Game Week 14 preview. Everything you need to know: captaincy, free hit if you want a free hit, any transfers that should be made, looking at the games, looking at the differentials as well. So let's get right into it. Now, as we are starting on Tuesday, we also have Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games. Starting off, we have Bournemouth, Everton, and Fulham, Man City as the two early kickoffs this week at 7:30. Then at 8:15, we have Newcastle versus Tottenham. On Wednesday, Arsenal, Brentford, Brighton, Aston Villa, Burnley, Crystal Palace, and Wolves, Forest at 7:30, and Leeds, Chelsea, and Liverpool, Sunderland 8:15. And finally, on Thursday, just the one game, we have the 8 o'clock Man United versus West Ham. So, Luke's not here, and he unfortunately hasn't given me any predictions for his favourite games, etc. So I'm just going to go through a game that I think and I would really like to see this week, and that is actually going to be this Newcastle Tottenham game. I think Newcastle, two completely different teams at the moment, playing home and away. They're great. I think it's that they're great at home and they're terrible away. So this against Tottenham, playing at home, could be a real little spectacular one, especially starting off the game week as well on Tuesday. So we'll have to see how that goes. I'm sure Luke would agree with me as well if he was here, but unfortunately he's not. It's fine. It's fine. We will see how that goes. Okay, let's talk differentials now. Unfortunately, I picked the wrong Man City midfielder last week when I should really have gone for Phil Foden, who picked up 15 points. I instead went for Jeremy Doku, who got about 1 or 2. So I'm sorry to anyone that backed Doku instead of Foden. But this week, I'm bringing you a defender to go for. And that is Lacroix from Crystal Palace. I take that back. It is not Lacroix. I'm going for a midfielder. Yankuba Minte, 9.1% selected, playing against a... Oh, that's a good question. Who is he playing against? Playing against an Aston Villa side that they are known for conceding goals. They did keep a clean sheet last week, but Minte is just pretty decent form. Can get assists, can get goals, can get everything. So, Yankuba Minte, welcome to the differential team. I'm sure you won't disappoint me. Okay, now let's get on to the real stuff that everyone's looking forward to. Let's talk free hit. So, I have here a free hit that's probably one of the more popular free hit drafts you're going to see for this week's game. Personally, in terms of using a free hit this week, Luke is actually going to activate his free hit chip. He unfortunately hasn't made his team yet, which is a bit of a worry for him. But we're going to look at a team that maybe he might take inspiration from, as this is probably the template free hit team. Now, I personally don't like the idea of free hitting in especially midweek game weeks, because I think the chance of rotation is so high that it's a lot of a guessing game. But if you have, for example, if you're in Luke's situation with lots of injuries, lots of suspensions as well from cards, etc., you might just need to take it to play 11 players hopefully this week. So, starting off, we have double Arsenal defence with Raya and Jurriën Timber in the defence. Then we also have Van Dijk, who's playing Sunderland this week at home, And finishing it off, we have Lacroix at, with a Burnley away game. I really like the Crystal Palace defence for this Burnley away game. The attack, not so much. Losing Ismaila Sarr to an injury is I just don't know how attacking they're going to be now. I mean, if you own Mateta, you're going to keep Mateta. Sarr probably won't play until after the international, until the after Afcon's happened. So if you've got him in your team, just get rid of him. That's the best advice you can give someone. Really, just get rid of that man. But the Crystal Palace defense, especially as a Burnley team that's just not scoring many goals, I think you could really. I think Lacroix in there is a really good pick. Richards is a bit of a doubt as well to play. I think he will play on a personal level because I own him. I think he will play, but Lacroix is the more surefire player. If you're on a free hit, I think Lacroix Munoz is the Crystal Palace defender you're going to want to have. In terms of the Arsenal defense, I just think they've been conceding a bit more recently, but I still think it's just it's just a solid team. And if you want to play it safe, you just go for Arsenal in defence. That's the best way to do it. And Van Dijk, less said about Liverpool really. I think Sunderland, as much as they did score, they did win 3-2. They aren't exactly scoring a load of goals, and Liverpool did keep a clean sheet last week. So take that how you will. Let's move into the midfield. So starting off, we have Tavernier, who is playing against Everton at home. No Semenyo, so I think with you'll see from the rest of the team, the budget is used up in the rest of the midfield and attack. So Semenyo obviously doesn't cover the budget, but Tavernier is a great option, especially if Semenyo gets taken off because of maybe just they're trying to keep him rested a bit. Tavernier is a great option as he's on penalties, and also just the attacking threat is still there, and this is against an Everton team that isn't looking like they're not bad, but they concede goals, so definitely could pick up Tavernier for this game. And then we have Saka, Bruno Fernandes, Cody Gakpo, and Minte. As we've seen as my differential this week, Minte is in there. I've already explained. I think he'll do well. I think he could get some points. Definitely, there's no doubt in that. And talking about Saka, Fernandes, and Gakpo, I mean, we saw Salah get benched last week, and Liverpool played probably some of their best football they've played in a while. I think if you asked any Liverpool fan, they'd probably say best they've looked in a while. And I think putting Gakpo and Isak in that team together, Gakpo getting a goal, getting an assist, like when you look at this Liverpool team, the attack, he's always involved in some way. And I think against a Burnley team that's conceding goals, I think Gakpo is a great shout for this week. And I think as well, looking at transfers, Gakpo again is a good transfer for the next few weeks, I think. Saka, I mean, not much to be said on Saka. He's getting defensive contributions. He's getting involved in the goals and assists. And against a Brentford team that, again, aren't keeping many clean sheets, they will concede goals. Saka's just a great option to have for that reason. And finally, Bruno Fernandes against West Ham. Now, I have actually transferred in Bruno Fernandes to my own team. I don't feel great about it, but when you look at the stats, getting 2 assists, getting Defcon, if he gets a return, he gets almost always 2 or 3 bonus points as well, regardless of what it is. So I just think this man has so many different ways to get points that you just can't leave him out, and especially against a West Ham team that, even though West Ham are getting better, they're still not a good team, and they will probably concede against this Man U team. However, Man U again, it's Man United. You can never be too sure what's going to happen with their club. And then finally we go to the top, and it is Mateta and Haaland. Now you've got Mateta versus Burnley, Haaland versus Fulham. Fulham, I mean, you know how much I love Fulham's defensive record, and They um they didn't keep a clean sheet last week, but that's fine. I didn't play Anderson anyway. But Haaland against Fulham, I mean, as much as he's blanked in the last two games in the Premier League, can you really, he was unlucky to not score. What? Too fair, no, he didn't really do much last week. But he he's always going to be getting chances. He's always going to be in the box. He's always going to be taking shots. I really think that if you don't have Haaland in your free hit team, you will probably regret it. Is what I'd say. And Mateta against Burnley. Now, I was kind of looking at this and thinking, oh, maybe like a Danny Welbeck against Villa or Thiago, but Thiago plays Arsenal, which you don't, you never want to start a striker against a team that's got the most clean sheets in the Premier League or least goals conceded in the Premier League. And Mateta against Burnley, he's on penalties. He's gonna be taking shots. No Sar, so he's gonna likely be more involved. Maybe there won't be as much attack, but he's gonna be more involved in the attacks that happen. So you might as well just bring him in and just. I mean, you always want to bring in teams that are playing against relegation sides, and Burnley is a relegation side, so I think it makes the most sense. Now, out of the, I quite like this team. On a personal level, I wouldn't use my free hit for this team. However, I said the same about last week's free hit team that had Foden and had Gakpo in, and they absolutely ran a riot. So if you're desperate for a free hit team, you've got injuries, you've got suspensions, you're not sure if you can put out a full 11. Free hit, it doesn't look too bad this week, but on a personal level, I'm saving mine probably for game week 16, game week 17, depending on how things go because I've used transfers. Okay, so let's move on and talk about some captaincy options. I actually think, as much as you're going to see the majority captaining Haaland, which I think I probably will, I'm just trying to keep the captaincy going with Haaland, and just I you never know when he's going to score 2, 3 goals. Whereas with the other players, it's more of a guessing game. But there are some good fixtures to target here if you want to be a bit different. I would especially look at the three we've seen from the free hit team, which is Saka, Fernandes, and Gakpo. I think Gakpo against Sunderland could return big. The only problem is, where is he going to play? Is Salah going to come back into the team? There's a lot of different question marks above Gakpo that you kind of do you want to take that much of a risk on top of not captaining Haaland is the real question there. Fernandez, again, routes to points. You know you're probably going to get 4 or 5 points at least from him, but it's that big haul ability. And against a West Ham team that have been looking better, so it's more of a risk there as well. And then we've got Saka against Brentford. He's looking good. He's getting involved. Again, it's the same. All three of these players have the same question marks of, do you think they can outscore Haaland this week? I don't think there is a clear out and out fixture. There's, for example, Saka's not playing Wolves or Bruno Fernandes isn't playing Leeds. There's no fixture where you go, there will be a lot of goals in that game, so let's back this player. And I think personally, Haaland against a Fulham team, even though Fulham are quite good defensively, they will concede. And what are the chances Haaland in three when Man City score 3 goals, Haaland doesn't get involved? I just don't think that happens again. I think Haaland will be back to full form. He'll be angry that he's not got some goals. He wants that golden boot. I personally will be backing Haaland this week for the captaincy. And we're finally gonna talk about some transfers that should be made because, as we all know, Senesi is or has been suspended for getting 5 yellow cards, and Sarr, as I've also talked about, is unlikely to play before AFCON. Oliver Glasner's kind of said that he's not going to play Sarr before AFCON, and it's a very high chance that next time we're going to see Sarr will be after AFCON, so it's time to get rid of both of them. And if we are looking at players to bring in, let's talk about defensively. I think the best players to bring in, and it's a well, it's a transfer I made, but I made this transfer because I have the player that's most popular to bring in. But a lot of people are bringing in a Jurriën Timber or a Van Dijk of Arsenal and Liverpool. I personally have both these players in my team, and they would be where I'd go if I didn't have them and I had the money. However, I didn't have the money and I wanted to bring in Bruno Fernandes. So I've only brought in Reinildo, the of Sunderland, who only cost 4 million. Just a cheap defender. I'm not going to use him, but he's there if I need to bring him on to play. But Jurriën Timber, Virgil van Dijk are the best two. You can, if you don't have a Crystal Palace asset, you can also look at Munoz. You can look at Lacroix. You can look at Richards if you don't have the budget as well. I would also recommend taking a look at Anderson of Fulham because he's always getting DEFCON. He's high up there for DEFCON, and you will get a few clean sheets from him as well. And the fixtures are looking all right in that direction. And in terms of midfielder selections for bringing in for replacements for Sarr, again, it depends on the budget you have. If you can go up and get a Saka, a Bruno Fernandes, a Cody Gakpo, one of the premiums, maybe you want to go from Wemo for a couple punts before it goes to AFCON, because Man United in the next two games have Wolves and West Ham. So I think targeting a premium like that is probably your best bet. If you don't have that kind of money, you can drop down. You can look at, for example, you can look at a Minte, you can look at an Elliot Anderson, you could even look at a Granit Xhaka. Getting DEFCON, he's getting assists sometimes. There's a few options for kind of around each price range. You could also, if you wanted to, you could go sideways to Jeremy Pino of Crystal Palace, as we know his minutes are going to go up as he will just take over where Sarr's been playing. But it's one of those where you have to ask yourself, do you trust the Crystal Palace defense as much as the Crystal Palace offense and attacking threat that they will have now that Sarr's gone? Now, I know I'm saying this as if Sarr's been scoring loads of goals and getting involved in everything, when realistically he's just week in, week out been blanking. But his attacking threat has caused some of the goals that Crystal Palace have scored. And without him, if you believe that Pinot can fit into that role and do it just as well, then you might be getting yourself a bargain by bringing him in right now. If not, then there are plenty of other safer midfield options, I think, is what I would say, for the next couple of weeks. And I'm just finally, before I end this video, going to touch on the 5 free transfers we're going to get because of AFCON. So I believe it is after game week 15, which is this weekend, you will get 5 free transfers to use before game week 16, which means if you have 4 transfers, if you currently have 4 transfers, you don't make a transfer, you have 5 transfers in game week 15 and you use all 5 of them before the game week 15 deadline, you will then, after the game week 15 deadline, have an extra 5 transfers to use, which means if you so wanted to, you could make 10 transfers between the start of game week 15 and game week 16, which is basically a wild card, unless you want to get rid of your whole team, in which case unfortunately you might have to take a few hits. But say for example you are on 4 transfers before the game week 15 deadline, you don't make any transfers for game week 15, you will then only get 1 more transfer. You won't be on 9 transfers, you will only be on 5, because that is the max that it will go up to. So I encourage you, don't make transfers for the sake of making transfers. If you think that you've got a good team and you don't need to make a transfer, it's fine to have 1 or 2 transfers in the bank going into that game week 15 so that it gets raised up to 5. But if you're looking at your team, you want to make some changes, you've got 3, 4, maybe even 5 transfers saved up. You don't want to only get 2 from this game week 16 turn into 5. You don't want to be left thinking, oh, I should have made these transfers because then I'd still have this same amount of I still have 5 transfers afterwards. If you've got a player that you're not feeling too good about, they're not getting returns, and there's someone you'd rather have, even if it's just for the next couple of weeks, I would recommend bringing them in if you've got a lot of transfers saved up, because I just think you'll regret not bringing them in and saving the transfer, because there's no need to save transfers anymore. So yes, to break it down and make it sound a bit better, make sure you don't have 3, 4, 5 transfers after the game week 15 deadline. You want to have used as many as you can without being stupid and making transfers that don't make sense. For example, if you have a defender that is 4.5 million, say you have Richards or you have Anderson, that's 4.5 million defender, and for the sake of using a transfer, you decide to go for another 4.5 million defender. You don't really have any reason. There's no logic to why you've made it. You just want to get rid of the transfer. In this situation, I wouldn't recommend it. But I'm talking if you have suspensions, if you have injuries, you don't need to worry about not using your transfers, because you will get 5 back after the game week 15 has finished. So for anyone who's wondering how that goes, there's also a page on the FPL app that describes perfectly, a lot better than me, how these transfers are going to work, and hopefully you will understand it, because I definitely needed to see that page to understand what what exactly is going on, how many transfers am I going to end up with, and when can I use them. So yes, thank you all for watching this preview. Hopefully you'll be able to watch it before game week 14 starts, and we will be back for some live reactions. For it might come out Saturday. It will have to see how quickly we can turn around this video, but we'll see how it goes. Content is going to get better. I'm back in England, happy to be here, ready to get going and start making more content for you guys. So I will see you in a bit.